Please, Mommy, don't take Ethan's toy away.
In this house, no one disobeys me.
The rain was heavy that night, but the sound that broke Richard's heart wasn't the thunder. It was his daughter's cry echoing through the hall. "Please, Mommy, don't take Ethan's toy away," little Lily begged, her voice trembling. Vanessa's heels clicked sharply on the marble floor. "In this house," she hissed, "no one disobeys me." From the shadows of the garden, a man in worn gloves froze. His chest tightened. It was his house, his children, his wife. But none of them knew that the silent gardener trimming roses in the rain was Richard Whitmore, the billionaire everyone believed was abroad on business. He had returned not as their father or husband, but as a stranger watching his family fall apart. And when he saw the maid slip a sandwich to his hungry son that night, he realized someone else had been protecting what he couldn't. And that's where her story truly began. Before we dive deeper, if you're listening to this, "I want to prove my mom wrong," she said. "I can't hit 3,000 subscribers, and my friends said I'm wasting my time. So please subscribe." Well, let's continue. The morning light spilled gently across the Whitmore estate, painting gold over marble floors and glass walls. The mansion, from afar, looked perfect, a symbol of success, beauty, and luxury. But inside, the laughter that once filled those halls had long gone silent. Richard Whitmore watched from behind the hedge, trimming roses with gloved hands. His face was smudged with soil, his hair tucked beneath a cap. The billionaire who once wore designer suits now wore a gardener's uniform. He had traded boardrooms for flower beds, and he did it for one reason: his children. For weeks, rumors had reached him, whispers from the staff, awkward glances from his lawyer that his new wife, Vanessa, treated Lily and Ethan with an icy cruelty he had refused to believe. But last week, his daughter's teacher sent a message saying Lily had come to school with bruises that broke something inside him. So Richard did what no one expected. He faked a long business trip to London, hired an actor to impersonate him during video calls, and returned home as Robert, the new gardener. He had only one mission: to uncover the truth. From the window, he saw Vanessa laughing into her phone, her diamond earrings catching the light. Her beauty was undeniable, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. She was rehearsing charm, the same charm that once fooled him. Then, the sound he'd been dreading. "Lily!" Vanessa's voice sliced through the air. "How many times do I have to tell you? Don't touch my perfume." Richard froze. His hands trembled on the pruning shears. Inside, Lily, barely 7, stood holding a tiny bottle. "I'm sorry, Mommy. I just wanted it to smell nice for Daddy when he comes home." Vanessa yanked the bottle away. "Your father doesn't care about silly smells, he cares about respect and order. Now go to your room." Richard's jaw tightened. He wanted to rush in, to hold his daughter, to shout that she was wrong, but he couldn't. Not yet. His plan depended on staying hidden. That night, he returned to his small quarters behind the greenhouse. A cot, a kettle, and a photo of Lily and Ethan tucked under his pillow, that was all he had. The world thought he was a billionaire traveling Europe. Instead, he was living like a ghost in his own home. He opened his phone's recording app. "Day 1, he whispered. Vanessa screamed at Lily for touching her things. No physical harm yet, but visible fear. His voice cracked. "My children are scared of their own home." The next morning, Sophia arrived early for her shift. She was the housemaid, young, humble, and always soft-spoken. Richard noticed how she greeted the children first, kneeling to meet their eyes. "Good morning, Miss Lily, Master Ethan," she said with a gentle smile. "I made pancakes. Don't tell Mrs. Whitmore, okay?" Lily giggled, a sound that melted the air. It was the first time Richard had heard his daughter laugh in days. He watched as Sophia discreetly slipped an extra piece of toast into Ethan's napkin. Vanessa had been cutting their meals short, claiming, "Discipline builds character." But the boy's pale face told another story. What would you do if you saw someone else showing your children the love you should have given sooner? By midday, Richard had begun recording everything. Tiny microphones hidden behind vases, a small camera tucked inside a book on the shelf. Every cruel word Vanessa said became proof, each sigh, each tear from Lily, every nervous glance from Ethan. But what he didn't expect was how drawn he'd become to Sophia's quiet courage. When Vanessa scolded the children, Sophia would wait until she left, then whisper softly, "You're not bad, kids. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to love right." Those words hit Richard harder than he wanted to admit. That evening, while trimming the rose bushes, he found Sophia kneeling nearby, picking up Lily's torn drawing from the grass. "She made this for her dad," Sophia murmured, brushing the dirt away. "She says he used to call her his sunshine." Richard's throat tightened. "Does she talk about him often?" Sophia smiled faintly. "Every day. She says he'll come home and fix everything." He swallowed hard, forcing his gardener's accent. "Maybe he will." Sophia glanced at him curiously. "You talk like you know him." Richard turned away. "Just guessing." Later that night, he watched Vanessa's dinner party unfold from the shadows of the courtyard. She played the perfect hostess wineglass in hand, laughter echoing, guests dazzled by her elegance. But when she thought no one was watching, she snapped at the children for breathing too loud near her guests. Richard clenched his fists. "Patience," he told himself. "Collect proof. Protect them the right way." As the guests left, he caught Sophia again comforting Lily. "You're so brave," she whispered, tucking the girl into bed. "One day, everything will be okay." When Sophia left, Richard stepped inside quietly. He knelt by Lily's bed, tears brimming. "I'm here, my sunshine," he whispered silently, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Daddy's here. Just hold on a little longer." The next morning, Vanessa called for the gardener. "Robert, come clean up the fountain, it's disgusting." He obeyed, head bowed, pretending not to notice the disgust in her tone. But as he scrubbed the marble, he heard Ethan crying inside again. Sophia's voice followed softly. "It's okay, Master Ethan. You're safe with me." Richard exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. Somewhere deep inside, something began to change. This wasn't just about exposing Vanessa anymore. It was about rediscovering the father he used to be. As the sun set, he recorded one last message for the day. "Day 3, he said quietly. "Sophia, the maid, she's protecting them. She reminds me of what love should look like. I owe her more than she'll ever know." He looked toward the house, where laughter false, polished, and hollow echoed again from Vanessa's dining room. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "I'll catch her truth." And with that, the billionaire gardener tucked his phone away, unaware that the next day would test every ounce of his disguise. By dawn, the mansion hummed with quiet tension. The chirping birds outside felt like a cruel contrast to the icy silence inside. Vanessa had been in one of her moods again, the kind where even the walls seemed to flinch when she walked by. Richard stood in the garden, pretending to tend to the lilies. His eyes, however, were fixed on the upstairs window. Lily's window. A small hand pressed briefly against the glass. Then it disappeared. Inside, Vanessa's voice rang out. "If you spill your juice again, Lily, you'll go without lunch." A pause, then a faint sniffle. Richard's knuckles whitened around the watering can. Every instinct screamed for him to rush inside, to protect, to fight, but he reminded himself, again and again, not yet. Evidence first, exposure later. That morning, Sophia arrived with her sleeves rolled and her hair tied in a loose bun. Her smile was tired but warm, the kind of smile that had no reason to exist in a place like that, and yet did. "Good morning, Robert," she greeted the disguised billionaire, balancing a basket of laundry. "Another long day, huh?" He nodded, forcing a rough tone. "Seems like it. Mrs. Whitmore's got everyone walking on eggshells." Sophia sighed. "She always does. But kids shouldn't have to." Richard paused. There it was again, that quiet courage, the way she spoke about right and wrong even when she knew the walls might be listening. Later that day, Vanessa ordered Sophia to clean the grand hall carpets before guests arrived. "And make sure those brats stay out of sight," she added coldly. Sophia nodded, but her eyes flickered toward Lily and Ethan, who sat quietly in a corner drawing. She knelt beside them. "Hey, I need your help," she whispered playfully. "Let's see who can fold napkins faster for the guests' deal." The kids giggled, running to fetch napkins, For a brief moment, the mansion felt alive again, like laughter had dared to come home. From behind a column, Richard watched, his heart aching with both gratitude and guilt. How can a stranger love my children better than their stepmother? He wondered. The answer, he realized, was simple. Some hearts give, others only take. That afternoon, a thunderstorm rolled in. The wind howled against the tall glass doors, shaking the chandeliers above. Vanessa's mood worsened with every clap of thunder. By evening, the power flickered. Lily accidentally knocked over a vase while trying to carry a candle. The crash echoed like a gunshot. Vanessa's scream followed. "Do you know how much that costs?" She grabbed Lily by the arm. "Vanessa, please," Sophia pleaded, stepping between them. "It was an accident." "Stay out of this," Vanessa snarled, her eyes wild. "You're a maid, not a mother." But Sophia didn't move. Then maybe someone in this house should start acting like one. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the thunder seemed to pause. Then came the slap, sharp, loud, cruel. Richard dropped his tools, heart pounding. Through the half-open door, he saw Sophia clutching her cheek, still standing tall despite the pain. Lily was sobbing, begging Vanessa to stop. That was the moment the billionaire inside him died and the father awoke. He stormed inside, forgetting his disguise, voice breaking with fury. "Enough!" Vanessa spun around, startled. "Robert? Who do you think you—" But before he could speak, Sophia shook her head subtly, eyes begging him to stay calm. She didn't know who he was, but she knew that one wrong move could make things worse for the children. "Apologies, ma'am," Richard said hoarsely, forcing his accent. "Please don't take it out on the kids." "I'll clean it up." Vanessa glared at him. "You're lucky I don't fire you for interrupting." She turned to Sophia. "Pack your things. You're done here." Sophia swallowed hard. "As you wish, ma'am." Richard watched in silence as she gathered her few belongings, a notebook, a small rosary, and a photo of her younger brother. When she passed him, she whispered, "She can't keep doing this. Someone has to tell him." He wanted to say, "I am him," but the timing wasn't right. Not yet. That night, after Vanessa left for a social event, Richard found Sophia sitting by the servant's gate, her bag at her feet. The rain poured, soaking her hair. "You shouldn't be out here," he said softly. She smiled faintly. "I've been in worse storms." He hesitated. "Why did you stand up for them? You knew she'd fire you." Sophia looked down. "Because I didn't once years ago. I worked for a family where the father hurt his own son. I stayed silent, thinking it wasn't my place. One day, the boy disappeared. I still hear his cries in my dreams." Her voice trembled. I couldn't stay silent again. Richard's throat tightened. "You're brave, Sophia. Braver than you know." She shook her head. "I just did what any good person should do." He smiled sadly. "Not everyone would." For a long moment, they just sat in the rain, two souls bound by pain neither fully understood. Finally, Richard stood. "Go to the cottage near the west gate," he said quietly. "Stay there tonight. I'll make sure you're safe." She looked up, confused. "But, please," he insisted. "For them. For Lily and Ethan." Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "Thank you, Robert." When she was gone, Richard returned to his quarters, drenched and trembling. He turned on his phone's recorder. "Day 6, he whispered. "Vanessa struck Sophia tonight. Fired her for protecting my daughter. I can't stay silent anymore. Tomorrow, I reveal everything." He stared at his reflection, the dirt-streaked gardener who had once been a billionaire. "Funny," he muttered bitterly. "It took losing everything to see what really mattered." As thunder cracked across the sky, he made one final promise. Tomorrow, the truth comes out. But what Richard didn't know was that Vanessa had overheard part of his conversation. She wasn't sure who Robert really was, but she knew he wasn't just a gardener. And as lightning flashed across the mansion's glass walls, Vanessa Whitmore began plotting a very different kind of storm. Morning broke over the Whitmore mansion like a lie dressed in sunlight. The garden shimmered with dew. The air calm, but beneath that peace was a storm ready to explode. Inside, The mansion was alive with commotion. Vanessa had called for an early brunch, inviting close friends, a lawyer, and her favorite gossip columnist. She was going to announce something what? No one yet knew. Richard stood quietly by the fountain, still in his gardener's uniform. He'd slept barely an hour. Every heartbeat pulsed with the decision he was about to make. The evidence was ready. Recordings, photos, time-stamped clips, everything. But once he revealed himself, there would be no going back. He looked toward the west gate. Sophia was gone safe, hopefully, at the cottage as he'd instructed. For the first time in days, he allowed himself to breathe. Then Vanessa appeared on the terrace, draped in silk white, her hair glowing under the morning light. She smiled for the cameras as her guests sipped champagne. "My friends," she announced, voice honey-sweet, "I have wonderful news. My husband, Richard, has decided to extend his business trip indefinitely. In his absence, I'll be managing all family affairs, including the children's care and inheritance." The guests murmured approval. But in the corner, one guest, Richard's lawyer, Mr. Dempsey, shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't been told about this. From behind the marble column, Richard recorded every word. The pretense was over. He wiped his hands, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. "Actually," he said, his voice low but commanding, "I don't recall making that decision." The crowd turned. The sound of gasps rippled through the air. Vanessa blinked, then laughed nervously. "Robert, what are you doing? Go back to the garden." But Richard kept walking, slowly removing his cap. The disguise slipped away, revealing the familiar eyes she'd once vowed to love. Every glass in the room seemed to freeze mid-air. "Richard?" Vanessa's voice broke. What is this?" He stopped at the center of the hall, calm but unyielding. "It's called the truth." Gasps echoed again. The lawyer's face turned pale. "I came back early," Richard continued, "because something felt wrong. I heard how you treated my children. I saw how they flinched when you spoke their names. So I returned as someone else to see who you really were." Vanessa's perfect smile cracked. You're insane. You hid here pretending to be a gardener?" "Yes," Richard said simply. "Because I needed to see for myself the monster I'd married." The guests exchanged horrified glances. Vanessa stepped forward, forcing a laugh. "Don't believe him. He's delusional. This man's been under stress." But Richard raised his phone, pressing play. Vanessa's own voice filled the room. "You'll eat when I say you can. Do you understand? If your father really loved you, he'd be here, but he's not." Slap. Cry. The room fell silent except for the echo of that sound, sharp, unforgiving. Vanessa's expression twisted from fear to rage. "You recorded me?" "I protected our children," Richard corrected coldly. "Something you never did." Then, his tone softened. "And when you fired Sophia, the only one who showed kindness to Lily and Ethan, you proved what kind of mother you are." A murmur swept through the guests. Mr. Dempsey stepped forward. "Mr. Whitmore," he said, "with this evidence, we can file for immediate custody and divorce." Vanessa's voice cracked. "Richard, please, you don't understand." He cut her off. "No, Vanessa. For once, I do." From the stairs, small footsteps echoed. Lily and Ethan peeked out, wide-eyed. "Daddy," Lily whispered. Richard turned, and every ounce of anger melted from his face. He knelt down, arms open. "Come here, sunshine." Lily ran into his embrace, followed by Ethan. Their tears soaked his shirt as he whispered, "You're safe now. I promise." For a moment, the world outside that hug didn't exist. When Richard finally stood, Vanessa had collapsed onto a chair, trembling, realizing the empire of lies she'd built had crumbled in one morning. "I'll have your things sent out," Richard said firmly. "You'll never see them again, not after what you've done." The guards escorted her out as guests whispered in disbelief. The woman who once commanded every room now left in shame and silence. Richard exhaled slowly. For the first time in years, the house felt lighter. Hours later, the lawyer handed Richard the final documents. "It's over," he said gently. "You did the right thing." Richard nodded. but his thoughts drifted to the cottage by the west gate. That evening, he went there. The rain had started again, soft and forgiving. Sophia was sitting by the window, still in her simple dress, holding a cup of tea. She looked up, startled. "Mr. Whitmore?" she breathed. He smiled faintly. "You can call me Richard now." She blinked, confused. I don't understand." He stepped closer. "You once told me you couldn't stay silent again. Because of that, my children are safe. You saw what I was too blind to see. And I owe you more than words can repay." Sophia shook her head. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what any mother would do." He smiled sadly. "But you're not their mother. You were their angel." She looked away, blushing slightly. "They're beautiful kids. They deserve peace." Richard nodded. "And they'll have it because of you." He reached into his pocket and handed her an envelope. "I want you to stay as their nanny. But more than that, as part of our family, if you'll accept." Sophia hesitated, eyes wide. "Are you sure?" He smiled softly. "Completely." Lily's voice called from behind him. "Daddy, is Miss Sophia coming home with us?" Sophia's laughter broke the tension. "I guess I am," she said, smiling through tears. As they all walked back toward the mansion, the rain slowed, sunlight breaking through the clouds. The house that once echoed with fear now carried the sound of children's laughter again. Inside, Richard paused at the doorway, looking at Sophia as she helped Ethan with his shoes. His voice was gentle, grateful. "You reminded me what love looks like, Sophia. Thank you." She turned, eyes glistening. "No, Mr. Whitmore, you reminded yourself." The camera would fade on that moment, a home rebuilt not by wealth, but by courage, kindness, and truth. The billionaire who went undercover as a gardener had finally found what money could never buy: peace. In the end, Richard realized that love isn't proven by wealth, but by presence. His mansion didn't need chandeliers, it needed laughter. His children didn't need luxury, they needed safety. And sometimes, the bravest hearts wear aprons instead of crowns. Sophia's courage became a quiet miracle in his broken home. Vanessa's cruelty became a warning that pride without love destroys everything. So remember this: kindness isn't weakness, it's strength disguised as gentleness. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button for more emotional tales from King's Folklore. And even if it didn't, come on, subscribe anyway, we'll win you over next time. Drop a comment, like the video, and let's keep the stories alive. Thanks for watching.